Hello, everyone. This is Brittany Nicole with Divine Connections, and we are having one of our community talks. This is one of the things that I stated that I was really looking interested in doing was talking to other Christian entrepreneurs. So today, who we have is Keyanna Avery, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her business. So if you can just tell us the name of your business and what you do.
Absolutely. So my business is Agency 7 Public Relations. It is a boutique public relations and marketing agency, and pretty much I work with businesses and brands to help them authentically engage and connect and tell their stories to the people who matter.
Okay, I love that. That's awesome. Because one of the things that I am really finding out more and more is that people want to hear your story.
Absolutely.
And before business, I did not understand that at all. So when I'm meeting with people, they're like, "What is your story?" And I'm like, "Oh, my story. Well,
Yes.
my name is Brittany, and blah 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 blah." They was like, "No, you got to go deeper." So I would definitely love to hear more about how you help people create their stories.
Got it. Yes.
So that's awesome. But like I said, on this channel, what we're going to be doing is talking about business and faith, fusing business and faith together. So there's a lot of questions that I'm going to ask Keyanna in regards to how she is actively fusing fusing faith into her business. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and get into that. So the first question that I have for her is, how did you hear from God in regards to what you're doing right now?
So that's a very interesting question. And to make a very long story short, I had known for a long time that I had always felt, even as a teenager and as a child, like a pulling towards being an entrepreneur. And I really didn't know what that meant. I remember as a kid always saying, when I get older, I'm going to have my own business. And I was like, okay, I don't know what, but I just remember saying that all of the time. And out of college, I really just felt like, I wanted to go, and I knew I wanted to work in the PR industry, but I was like, I'm going to work for a little while and maybe kind of do my own thing. And my goal was to, get a corporate job, work that as long as I can, and then see what happened. But I really just felt a pulling, like, to go into the marketplace. And I started my business. I have been praying for a while, asking God, like, what do you want me to do? I was surrounded by all of these people in the PR industry. That was when social media, like, I don't want to age myself, but that was when social media started to really become a little more popular. And so I met all these people online who were doing public relations, and they were like the same age as me, and they were starting businesses. And so I remember one day just really praying about it and feeling like God was leading me to just start. So I started my business while I was still working. And I just really kept feeling the pull, like, there's more for me to do. And I really kept feeling like I was hearing God saying, like, there's more for you to do besides this. And I got let go from my job, and I was like, I'm just going to do this.
Wow. That's deep.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Can you tell me a little bit more about the emotions that you were feeling at that time and how you just had to push past it?
So I think the biggest thing for me at that time was fear, because, I really didn't come from a place where I knew a lot of entrepreneurs, where you saw a lot of people running their own businesses. There was really nobody to give me a blueprint or a guide on what to do. And at that time, I was still kind of, which this is definitely a whole nother story, but I was still kind of solidifying my own relationship with God, and figuring out the dynamics of that. And so I was just like all over the place. And I was fearful, but I was also excited, because I'm like, God, this is a great opportunity for me to do something. And I know you're calling me to this. And I had, friends who were like praying with me, and they're like, you just need to do it. Like, just do it, just do it, just do it. So I knew that God was calling me to that, and I felt excited about it, but I was still kind of fearful and unsure, and maybe even a little timid and apprehensive, because I've never done this before. So.
And that's why what I plan on doing, I feel is so important, is because there are
Absolutely.
not a lot of community that has entrepreneurs coming together to be able to talk about business and faith and all of those things. And one of the
Absolutely.
biggest things for me was that I would hear my pastor and everyone say, like, go after your dreams, do this, you're called to do that, but no one has ever sat down with me to say, this is how you do it. So I
Absolutely.
commend you for just moving forward, and it just it makes me think of a testimony that I had. So I had a lady come up to me at church about 5 years ago, and she whispered in my ear, "Just do it." And I was just like, "What's she talking about?" I'm like, "You're gonna have to give me a little bit of background
Like,
about what you're talking
girl,
about."
listen.
But one of the things that I am finding out is that whenever God calls you to do anything, it is your job to just do it. Doesn't mean
Yep.
if you have the resources or if you know what plans is
Yeah.
going to come before. It's just like he's just do it, and I'll make sure everything else will follow after that.
Absolutely.
So I commend you. That is big, because pushing past fear and your comfortability level, or I should say, is just it's hard. It's hard at
It's
times.
extremely
So
hard.
good for you. That is awesome. So as of right now, what are you actively doing in order to keep God in your business and hearing from Him?
Good question. I think the biggest thing is, so there are a few things. The first thing is maintaining my relationship with God, because if the relationship isn't, like, if this isn't right, then none of this is going to be right.
Yeah.
So just really growing daily in my relationship and maintaining my relationship and being intentional about my relationship with God. That's the first thing. And then making sure that, I am intentional about including God in my business by doing things like prayer. So one of my mentors, she has this thing where she says, like, you need to have your daily business meeting with God. And so, she's like, whatever that looks like for you is fine, but you need to have a daily business meeting with God. And so making sure that I'm just really seeking God, like, again, being intentional about seeking Him, about what He wants me to do with this business. And not because I've done it my way before, right? Like, I've done it my way, and that didn't work out really well. So being intentional about saying, what is it that you want? Being intentional about asking, like, what do I need to do to help my client? So really just prayer, staying in my word, like staying engaged with the word, staying in prayer, and then surrounding myself with a community of people. So I absolutely commend you for what you're doing, because community is big, and surrounding yourself with like-minded people who really understand the journey that you're on, or who are beginning the journey, so that you can kind of hold each other up and hold each other accountable. So those have been the biggest things to kind of help me fuse my faith into what it is that I'm doing.
Okay. Good answer. I don't know how to snap that. That was good. That was good. So what would you say is the most rewarding and the hardest part about being a Christian entrepreneur?
The most rewarding part, I would say, for me, is really being able to see God move. Really being able to see how God is taking what He has so little on me to do, and use it for His glory, use it to change people's lives, use it to impact somebody. And even when I'm not thinking, that what I'm doing is impactful, or that what I'm doing, anyone is paying attention. So that is probably the most rewarding, and knowing that this is something that He told me to do, and just that I'm pleasing Him in doing what I'm going to do. And then I also think that probably the most challenging part of this running a business and, being a Christian is, oh goodness, let me just pick one, because I'm thinking of like a whole bunch of things, but I think that for me, the most challenging part is really not getting entangled with the world, so to speak, and really just staying focused on God, and focused on the main thing, and focused on what He has told me to do, and not focused on what Instagram says. my business should look like, or not focused on what this marketing guru says I should do in terms of marketing, because God may not want me to go in that direction.
Okay.
So that's probably the most challenging. It's like, but everybody's doing it this way, and God is like, but no.
Okay, so listen, I'm not gonna go there. This is not on the paper, but can we go a little deeper into that?
Yes, come on, let's go.
I had to get off of social media because everyone was saying you have to do it this way, you need to read this book, and blah 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 blah. But I was like, but God gave me this plan, so why am I listening to you in order to implement what I'm supposed to do? And I've seen people who started the same time that I started, and I was like, then what am I doing? Because God gave this to me, but Jesus, they're excelling, and I look like a fool.
Now you coming right on over here in my lane, honey. You are coming on over here.
So I mean, tell me how you work through all of that.
So that is also it's an ongoing process. And again, having a community of like-minded people has really, really helped me to kind of not go there anymore. Because I definitely used to be caught up in the comparison trap, like you said, like looking at people like, oh my goodness, they started at the same time as me, and they're all the way over here, or they started after I started. Oh yeah, and they and they're all the way up here, and God, I'm just still floating in the water. Like, what are we doing? And God really had to work. Like, I really had to work through comparison and getting to the place where I understood that my journey does not look like everyone else's, and especially now. Listen, I wasn't going to try to go here. But when you are specifically appointed for a specific assignment, I think for people like us, our journeys are always going to look different because there are things that we have to work out. There are things that we have to go through. There are things that God needs us to get, because it's not always about the bottom line, and it's not always about making $1, and it's not always about us being seen, and it's not always about, who knows my name. There's a bigger picture when God is in the picture, right? So it's really about us having to go through our own processes so that God can get the glory out of what we're doing. Because when I think about, my journey thus far, everything that I've gone through, even though it's been painful sometimes, even though it's like I don't want to, even though I may have been kicking and screaming, God had to be able to pull some stuff out of me and get me to this place to where what I'm doing and where I know, even if the elevation takes a long time, even if the elevation or the promotion or the platform takes years in the making, He had to get me to a place to where it's not going to be about me once everything. So I think that's kind of how it's difficult and it's different, because when you see people on social media, saying they're doing all of these things, then you have to kind of also dissect, like, what is underneath that? Like, what are the layers that we need to pull back? Are you really doing all this? And, my pastor talks about this all the time, like, we have to stop comparing our real lives to people's Facebook lives. Yeah. It's two different lives. He's like, you have to stop, because you don't know what those people are honestly dealing with. And then you don't know what they might be living this so-called life of luxury, but you don't know what they're trading off in return to be able to take the pictures with the celebrities or to have somebody calling their name, etc.
That is so good. I was thinking in my head, like, okay, so what am I going to say next? But she said it all. Like, that is so, you said that very well. And I went through that. I'm still going through that. There's times when I just have to remove myself and say, you know what, Lord, you gave me this business. I need to get tuned back in with you, because if I don't, I'm going to listen to the voices of insecurities and all of those things that say I should be here. So, girl, I get it. So, as a tip, if God has called you to do something, please rest assured that you are able to do it, and you don't have to look at others in order to learn what it is that you need to do. Now, God will put people in your life who can help you along that journey. But if you are only listening to the voices of others on how to complete a God-given assignment, it's not going to work. So, yeah, absolutely. So how do you, well, I think we kind of already went on that. How do you rely on God to build your business? If you can elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yes. Relying, I think that's probably the key word, relying on God to build my business. And it's more so of removing myself from the process and saying, let me hear from you on what you want me to do. So again, that takes a lot of prayer.
It does.
And really understanding and knowing the voice of God. Because sometimes we can think that, and I've made this mistake myself, thinking that I'm hearing from God when it's really me. Like, it's really what I want.
Yeah.
So really just knowing the voice of God and knowing how God speaks to you and knowing how God talks to you. And seeking, again, being really intentional on saying, like, what is it that you want in this season? Like, what are you doing? I found myself getting into the place where I've been asking God the question, like, what are you doing in this season, and how do you want me to, like, fit into that?
That's
like,
so good.
Where do I fit into that? Because, of course, I don't want to miss you. I don't want to, move outside of what it is that you're doing and go on my own accord and my own will. But what are you doing? So really just being in tune with God and saying, I need you to tell me how to do this. Because if you don't, we know how that's going to end up. I need you to tell me step by step. And you really have to exercise patience, because sometimes God might give you one step at a time, and it's like, but I'm trying to do steps 1 through 95 right now, today. And he's like, nope, just do step 1.
Sure. Yeah.
And then when you finish that, I might give you 2 and 3.
And that was a might.
Right, I might give you 2 or 3. Let me see. So that's really just the way that it has worked for me. To be able to rely on God to build.
Yeah, and I would say something similar to that as well. I know that in the beginning of starting what I'm doing right now, God gave me the vision, and I just started moving. I said, you gave it to me. Okay, I know how to do this. Check. Okay, I got it. And I just started moving, and I forgot to actually check back in with God, and it got me really far away. And I thought I was doing what God was calling me to do, but sometimes He just showed me that rest is better than doing anything, and that is the hardest thing I ever thought. Rest. I mean, it sounds like you just enter in, like you just rest, but I was like, it was so hard for me not to do. So that's one of the things that I try to do is just in the mornings, I just listen. I don't ask Him for anything. Just, what do you have to say today? And sometimes that doesn't work. There's so much going on in my mind, but I'm training my heart and my mind just to sit back and listen to Him. So that's really good. And how do you balance faith and practicality in your business? So we know that there's a level of faith, but we know there's a level of you have to do things as well. So how do you balance that?
So I think we all know the famous scripture, faith without works is dead, right? And it is a balance, because you have to go into it saying, okay, like, I really am going to listen to you, God. I'm going to hear from you. I want you to tell me what to do. But then at the same time, when God gives us instructions, like, we can't just sit there. And I think it's also a level of, sometimes, even if you're not hearing from God, so even if you go through a season where you feel like you're not hearing from God, for me, it's like, okay, well, I'm still going to move, and I trust that if I'm going in the wrong direction, God is going to course correct me. So I think it's just being practical, and I think God gives us a measure of wisdom to be practical in what we're doing. So it doesn't have to be this, I'm going to light my candles and lay before the altar every time we make a decision, or every time we're going to do something, but trusting that, okay, God has me in this situation, or God put me in this place. I can move, or I can make a decision. If it's not the right decision, then we just going to go back and correct it. So sometimes you do have to just, for me, I think it's just continuing to move and continuing to know, the word also says that we are to put on the mind of Christ. Like we need to have the mind of Christ. And so if you really are being intentional about your relationship, which is one of the things, again, like I said earlier, that I really am starting to do is be intentional about my relationship, then it allows me to trust the decisions that I make more. So it's not just, I need to go like, I got to go in this closet and fast for 90 days before I can give you an answer. It is, okay, I'm going to make a decision. And then if it's not the right decision, that's fine. Or I'm going to do this to try to push things forward. And if that's not right, then, okay, we'll just course correct, we'll pivot, we'll move forward. And just having common sense.
Common sense.
Isn't so common.
Yeah. But well said. And I do love the fact that God gives us grace to recalibrate when, we might do something. Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, here is our last question. What advice would you give to a new Christian business owner?
My advice would be to not get so caught up in feeling like, and the reason I'm going to tell you the reason that I'm going to say this first, and then I'm going to say it. So the reason that I'm going to give this piece of advice is because I think sometimes as Christian business owners, whether we're new, especially when we're new, we get caught up in the fact that I can't make a mistake. I can't do anything wrong. I have to be perfect. I don't want to, disappoint. And so my advice would be to not get caught up in being so like rigid about this process and what needs to happen. Because if your heart is correct, if your heart is right, if God knows that your heart is postured to do what He has called you to do, we're human. Like, you are going to make mistakes, and it really is okay. It really is okay. So that would be my advice, is just to not be so rigid in the process and to really just surrender and let God do His work, let God have His way, and be okay with the journey, because it is going to be a journey.
It's a journey.
It's going to be a journey. So really just surrender and be okay with the fact that this is going to be a journey and that your life is going to change. Like, you cannot give God a yes, especially when it goes into entrepreneurship. But with anything, you can't give God a yes and expect to stay the same. You cannot give God a yes and expect to stay the same. It's not possible. So expect that your life is going to change. Expect that you are going to change, that you are going to be different, and that is going to be okay. And then I will also say, surround yourself with a community of people. Find people who love God just as much as you do. Find people who can mentor you, people who can really guide you, people who can really support you in this journey, because it can get lonely if you don't have anybody, walking with you and helping you in this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was so enlightening.
It was great.
Yeah. I'm going to have you back, because there's some stuff that you hit on that I just want to extract even further. So
anytime.
Awesome.
Anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
This was great. So if you enjoyed this, I want you to give us a thumbs up. I also want you to go ahead and give us some topics that you would like to hear about. And we have other social media handles that you can continue to connect with us on, which is Facebook. We are Divine Connects, DivineConnects, as well as on Instagram, it's Divine Connects as well. So I'm glad you guys stayed tuned. If you